I was left to my own devices. Many days fell away with nothing to show, and the walls kept tumbling down in the city that we love. Grey clouds roll over the hills, bringing darkness from above. But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like you've been here before? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? We were caught caught up and lost in all of our voices, in your pearls as the dust settles around us, and the walls kept tumbling down in the city that we love. Grey clouds roll over the hills, bringing darkness from above. But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like you've been here before? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? Oh, where do we begin? The rubble of our sins. Oh, where do we begin? The rubble of our sins. And the walls came tumbling down in the city that we love. Grey clouds roll over the hills, bringing darkness from above. Close your eyes. Does it almost feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like you've been here before? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? If you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all?
Hello, welcome here on another Friday evening. Please excuse me. I had my mute button off there, and I'm sure you heard me moving around. It's not like normal, so it isn't. Anyway, we decided to come on this evening because we weren't here on Wednesday evening. I mean, I was working away from home, and that's the reason why I wasn't here on Wednesday. But, you know, there's been a fair amount happening this week, and we decided that we would come on and really give people an update on where that it is that we actually stand. Now, if you just bear with me for 1 second, I have a guest, and just bear with me for 2 seconds, should I say. I'll just type to this guest, or this guest, I'm sure will hear me. And if you sign into the software there, and I'll spot you, so I will whenever that you pop up. And then what we can do is we can bring you in whenever we finish having a chat here and making an introduction. Please excuse me for all of that, but we have a guest joined us this evening, and she was only asked 5 minutes ago, not even 5 minutes ago, and fair enough, she's coming on to have a chat. Anyway, people, we're here this evening, and we're here really to share some thoughts on where that it is that we believe that we're going. Let's just play a short video, and let's point out what is happening in Northern Ireland in the past few weeks. Now, you may have heard, if you've been listening to your news, specifically the BBC, not exclusively, but specifically, whenever there was this, let's just say there was talk of people being excluded from the media and certain voices being excluded from the media. And then you see that there were people that's involved in Let's Talk Loyalism, and what they have done is that they're demanding that every voice should be heard. And I have to say, whenever I was listening to Muir Holmes on the radio, I believe that he held his own, and I believe that he presented a very, very good case for the fact that all voices should be permitted. And then we hear this journalist. Well, I'm going to say journalist. I don't know why she's a journalist or not. But however, she says that she's an award-winning journalist. And you call this lady Amanda Ferguson. And she seemed to be saying last week that that, well, given that she's an award-winning journalist and she's got all of this experience, she seems to think that she should be the only voice. I mean, she's got all power and all authority and all the credentials to be able to speak, but however, others actually don't. And what I'm going to say is that whenever you see this happening in Northern Ireland, and then you look out into other places, you begin to realize this just isn't something that's happening here in Northern Ireland, but this is something that's happening right around the Western world. And I'm going to call it the war on free speech. And that's exactly what it is. It's a war on freedom of speech. So let me just play you a little video. And whenever I play you this little video, what I want to then do is we'll come back and we'll talk some more. And again, I'm saying to that lady that's coming on, I'm going to type to her in a second, but if you just sign into the broadcast software, we'll bring you in whenever we've done this introduction. So back to the video with reference to the war on free speech. Now, this is first on our agenda this evening. We'll talk a little bit about this. And over to the video, and I'll be back very shortly.
News has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Stick it where the sun doesn't shine.
You'll have seen that lady at the end there telling them to stick it where the sun doesn't shine. We thought that would have been a bit of humour to add to the end of that. But there's the reality. The reality is that right across the Western world, the media, they're leading an assault on free speech. And whenever you have so-called journalists like Amanda Ferguson actually saying that she's an award-winning journalist and she believes that there are certain voices that shouldn't be permitted on the media. And what she really means by saying that is she means that anybody that disagrees with her or anybody that she disagrees with, she doesn't want to hear them on the media. And today in 2022, there are a lot of people just like that. And isn't it very interesting that those of us that would call ourselves conservative, those of us that want to protect freedom of speech, even their freedom of speech, even our opponents' freedom of speech, because we really need to hear them to realize how bunkers that they really are. But isn't it interesting that the so-called liberal folk, well, they don't want their opponents or anybody that disagrees with them, they don't want to hear their voices. And yet they call themselves liberal. That's not very liberal, is it? And this is happening right around the Western world. So there's really point one that we wanted to discuss this evening is there's a war right now on free speech and freedom of speech. Well, you know, I can remember talking to a man in England just a few years ago, and this is a man who is no stranger to being attacked by the mainstream media, the powers that be, and everybody else, every other non-governmental organization that is funded by those that mean us most harm. You see, this man, he was having his freedom of speech removed. And I can remember saying to him, you know, they may be able to take your voice away, and this was a few years ago, but they can't stop you from, you know, traveling the highways, the byways, into the towns, the cities, you know, into the estates, up the streets, knocking people's door and spreading your message in that way. And if that's what it takes, well, that's what's going to have to happen. And we see that happening in the run-up to the elections. We see people, they're out, they're canvassing, they're knocking doors. And very shortly here, we're going to have a lady who's going to come on and tell us of her experience whilst that she's knocking the doors and really what people are saying on the doorstep. But we'll get to that in a moment. But there is right now a war on free speech. And it's not just here in Northern Ireland, it's right around the Western world. And if you look at what's happening in our own parliament, in the Westminster Parliament, in the Southern Parliament, or the Dáil, is that what they call it? In other places, France, Germany, right across the Western world, to name all of those countries attached to the EU. You see, there is, there's legislation going through the parliaments again, which says that the legislation, they're dressing this up as if they want to protect people. And they want to protect people from being offended. They want to protect people from what they call hate speech. But the laws that are going to be made is really going to curtail you from saying a lot of things. And I just wonder, if you love your history, your heritage, your culture, your nationality, your place in the United Kingdom, if you want to shout about this constitutional changing protocol even, I wonder, will some of these laws actually curtail you, and in a way that your opponents, they would have the absolute and utter upper hand. Some of these people that call themselves liberal, some of them really should be in jail for some of the things that they're stirring up, and yet we're the ones that they say that are the troublemakers. You'll have seen in that video. War is let's play that again. I just can't remember that saying. We'll play it and I'll stop up alongside it. So just bear with me for a second. War is freedom. That's what we're talking about. But let's play this and I'll be back in a sec again. We'll stop it and start it as we go. That's what we'll do.
News has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
There's what I'm looking for. War is peace. Slavery is freedom. Lies is truth. Totalitarianism is democracy. War is peace. The peacekeepers, are they really creating the war? Slavery is freedom. They say that we live in a free society, but some of the laws that they're making right now, they're not. They don't look very free to me. Whenever they're curtailing the rights that our forefathers, that they fought and died for, in order that we would have this sense of normality here right across the Western world. Your freedom of speech, your freedom of expression, your right to criticize bad law, your right to hold a politician to account, your right to point out corruption, where it is that you perceive that corruption is, and your right to do so in a way that you have the right to ask questions whenever you perceive that there's corruption, and you expect your politicians, for example, to come along and to give you some answers. You don't expect to end up, say, in a liable court, or you don't expect to end up in a law court. And I believe that this is exactly where that it is that we're going. And right now we see. And I'll use this terminology that would be in that book, 1984, by George Orwell, is that in times of universal deceit, telling the truth will be a revolutionary act. And I believe right now, if we look at the propaganda that's coming down through the media right now, is this times of universal deceit? So therefore, lies, is it really truth? The lies that they tell. What do they say? That if you tell a lie often, it becomes truth. People begin to believe it. And then the other bit, totalitarianism is democracy. We're living in a time when increasing totalitarianism is incrementally creeping into place. And are we soon going to be curtailed from even protesting against the government? They say that in times of war, they say that in times of a health emergency, the government would have the right to place in draconian measures. But will those draconian measures ever be removed? Once we lost that freedom, will it be lost and gone forever? I mean, there's a real question for us. So there we go. That's what I really wanted to discuss, and I want to really make people aware to keep an eye on the media and to understand that right now there is a war on free speech, like never before. So there was the first thing that I wanted to talk about. Now, what I'm also now going to do is I'm going to play a little break here. And it's a break that's going to put a smile on everyone's face. Just last year, over the July period, we had a guest, a man from Turning Point UK, a man called Jack Ross. Well, he came to join us, and what he did is he spent the July holidays with us. And what we did is we took him around Northern Ireland. Now, I'm going to play a little scene from a parade in Kilkeel on the 10th of July, just last year, whenever we attended Kilkeel. And I want you to listen to this little band. This little band, they're playing a very, very special tune. Let's see, can you guess what this tune is? And let's see, can you maybe even sing along? And this is just a little break. And then on the other end of this, we're going to bring in our guest, and we'll talk some more. Lorna, welcome to your screen. I'll just unmute you there because I muted you up. And thanks very much for agreeing at very, very short notice to come on.
No problem.
I was speaking to Jim about 9 o'clock there, and I says, look, I feel bad that it didn't actually broadcast on Wednesday evening. It was due to my work. I was away there for a week, and I'm only back this evening. So I decided to come on this evening. Just to say hello to people. I think people they wait for us every Wednesday evening, and then whenever you don't weigh in, well, it's a bit of a disappointment, I'm sure, for people. Lorna, really why I asked you to come on. Anyway, introduce yourself again, Lorna, just in case some people do not know who Lorna Smith is. Just tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing right now.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you, John, for having me on. I'm Lorna Smith. I'm standing for the TUV in Lagan Valley. I handed in my nomination papers this morning, so it's all getting very, very real. And I'm a veteran. I served 12 years in the RAF, here, there, and everywhere. And a single mum to a 4-year-old little girl. And I'm here to serve my community if they'll allow me to do so.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Lorna. And the reason why I asked you to come on this evening is that really, I mean, I wanted to talk about, you're out and about, you're doing some canvassing right now. And I wanted to, for you just to maybe update the people here at Restore on what it is that you're hearing on the doorstep as you would go around. So, I mean, if you could just, over to you, take as long as you like, and inform us as to what's happening whenever you're rapping those doors.
Okay, so we've been out. This has been the first week of our canvassing. We've kicked off our campaign on Monday with Jim in Lisburn, and it's the anger on the street, the anger on the doors is palpable. The people are angry with the DUP. They're also angry with the Ulster Unionist Party as well. They're fed up with the way things are going. They're fed up with the scare tactics that the DUP are using. But they're also fed up with the way that Doug Beattie and his party are heading towards the Alliance side, towards Sinn Féin side. We've seen some kind of untoward things from the Ulster Unionist Party, and even in the last week, which would probably shock a lot of people if they actually knew. And that's coming across in the doorsteps. People are aware of what's going on, what they're doing, and they're fed up with it, and they want change.
Yeah, and thanks very much for that, Lorna. So, with reference, say, the Ulster Unionist Party, I mean, I had a conversation with the man last night by way of, I was on a WhatsApp call with him. And we were discussing the Ulster Unionist Party, and we were discussing how that it is that the Ulster Unionist Party, I mean, they're EU unionists. Let's just not make any mistake about that. That's what they are. They're EU unionists. They're not United Kingdom unionists. Now, they put on the facade. They pretend to be Ulster unionists whenever they're actually not. Now, I'm going to say something that for every right-minded individual who calls themselves a British unionist, a United Kingdom unionist, well, we look at the Ulster Unionist Party in despair, and we realise that you know, a vote for the Ulster Unionist Party right now, you may as well be voting for the Alliance Party, because they're doing exactly the same thing. And you know, this man said to me on the WhatsApp call, you know, it's a good thing they're going to take votes off Alliance. Well, I said, well, really, is it a good thing? Because you're really getting the Alliance Party, and you're getting the Alliance Party in a way that what they are doing, is that they are providing the illusion of cross-community support for a lot of things, Lorna. And, you know, whenever you scratch the surface, whenever you see that they're being invited to all arts and parts to provide that illusion of cross-community support. So what I actually call them, I promised myself when I come on here, I went away, freshened my head for a week whilst I was working, done a lot of thinking, and I thought to myself, I'm going to stop, I'm going to play the ideology. I'm going to play the ball, not the man. This was my new thoughts. But here I am, what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes in, and I'm finding it impossible to do so whenever I'm talking about the Ulster Unionist Party. Whenever that I'm trying to stop and refrain from saying Mug Beattie, because that's what he is. He's really, you know, he's a mug if he thinks that British Unionists here in Northern Ireland don't actually see that the party of Carson has become the party of Ursula von der Leyen, or von der Leyen. The party of the Ulster Unionist Party has become the party of the New Ireland, which with Ian Marshall, imagine. Ian Marshall, well, what did he say? He wants the Oireachtas to be sitting here in Northern Ireland, in Belfast. And he actually said that. You know, I just don't believe what I'm hearing from that party. So there we go. That's enough of me playing the men. I'm going to now try to stick to, this is I'm going to say my new month's resolution here. I'm going to try to stick to playing the ball as opposed to the men. There's Stephen Cooper. I'm just going to pop him up here. Stephen, you would be very, very welcome, Stephen, to pop yourself up on here if you want. I can send you a link. If you can leave me a message there, we can soon put you on, and you can maybe join in this chat with us if you want, Stephen. So let me know on the live chat, and we can bring you in if you would like to. I just thought I would actually say that. So you were out the other day. You were with Jim Allister, robbing the doors. I mean, just give me the itinerary. I mean, what happened whenever you met with Jim? Assuming we're Lisburn or somewhere.
Yeah, we met outside. We met outside the linen museum, the Linen Centre, where the War Memorial was. And then we walked up and down Bow Street talking to people, and people were coming over, and they're just so disillusioned with what's going on in politics in Northern Ireland, and they're fed up with the same old thing time and time again. And not only is that reciprocated from the high street, it's door to door. I've been out every night this week, knocking on people's doors, and it would the thing that I don't know what planet either the DUP or the UUP are on. I think they probably think unionist voters are a bit behind the times and don't realise what the game is. They're not, they're chancing their arm, and they're taking it for granted that they're going to get voted in, and that's not what we're hearing on the doorstep at all. It's something totally different. We're also hearing that these parties are only picking certain areas to go to where they know they've got some support, and sometimes they've beaten us to those doors. But then we've gone in behind them and they've asked us questions, and we can openly and honestly answer those questions. And they're astounded by the answers that they're receiving from us, because it's not what they've been told by the two other parties. So it really is, it's something quite different at the minute.
Yeah. Well, before I'm going to take you back to the let me get this right, the 12th of December in 2019. That was the general election, and the time before that, in where that lots of people here at Restore, the people that were working our background, I mean, we were part of the Unite Unionist group, and what we did was we rallied this country for and on behalf of the DUP. I mean, even your leader, Jim Allister, he would have stood all candidates aside at that time. I mean, Jim Allister would have went out canvassing for Nigel Dodds in North Belfast. Tom Elliott, which was the UUP up in Fermanagh, Jim Allister and Rotten Doors up there. I mean, we were standing on stages with these people, in different areas. And, the DUP had given us some undertakings, let's just say. And whenever the election was over, well, let's just give people an exclusive here. Let's give people an exclusive. I want to talk about something that I've never ever told anybody. Well, I have told people, and certainly there's people here on Restore no, but here we go. I can remember myself and John Ross had met Edwin Poots on the 28th of December in 2019. And Edwin Poots was brutally honest with us. We'll have to say that about Edwin Poots. He was the only man from the DUP that was absolutely honest and trying to do the right thing. Even though he was saying the wrong thing, he told us the truth. Edwin Poots told myself and John Ross, and John Ross will confirm this, that they were going to permit this Irish language commissioner. And he told us that they were stripping the teeth out of the Irish language commissioner. Well, look, I had said at the time, well, who remembers the parade commissioner? What happened there? Is this really a good idea? Have you taken leave of your senses, sort of thing? So I'm going to say about Edwin. Edwin was brutally honest, even though that he was telling us things that we didn't want to hear. At least he was being honest about what he was doing. But that was after what the DUP had done, as they had given us some undertakings and told us that they weren't going to, roll over to the IRA Language Act, and that's words that I've specifically chosen. So we went then to, I reckon it was about the 15th of January, thereabouts, on 2020. And then we had, I don't know, it seemed to be echoing there for some reason or other, I don't know why. So when we went to the 15th of January, thereabouts, in 2020, and we got wind that in one evening, they were going to be doing this New Decade, New Deal. In other words, Simon Coveney and I can't remember who it was at the time. Somebody will tell me who the Secretary of State was, but they produced this document based on what the DUP and based on what Sinn Féin had been talking about, and they produced the document. This was the New Decade, New Deal, written by the Irish government, written by the British government, overseen by their special advisors, so to speak. And they handed it to the DUP and they handed it to Sinn Féin. And, well, it was really a green document. This is what we seen in the document. We didn't like any of it, was the truth of the matter. Julian Smith, thanks very much, Matthew. There's Matthew Dillon just popping that up. So they went on and they went into Stormont. And I have to say, I felt, not just that I felt, but the people that rallied this country for the DUP, we felt sick to the pits of our stomach. Really sick to the pits of our stomach. And, you know, I had been saying, it took a lot of convincing for me to go out and to rally this country to get the DUP elected. And, you know, it was all about unionists coming together and we're a family. And I thought there's a real opportunity here. I mean, I'm going to use this phrase. We had as close to unionist unity prior to December the 12th in 2019 as I have ever seen in my life. And I really believed that no unionist party would actually do the wrong thing, because we, as I had said to people, this is the DUP's final last chance with me. I'd voted for the DUP, you know, on previous occasions. And I says, look, if these people shaft me one more time, that's it. That's it over. I will never, ever, ever vote for these people again. And you know something, Lorna? Just what you were explaining there is what I'm saying. Because it's the amount of people that have said to me that I wouldn't vote for the DUP if it was the last party in the world. And I believe that the DUP really, for what they did do, that was in the aftermath of the 12th of December in 2019. I believe that what they did was they caused the biggest disconnect that British unionism in Northern Ireland will ever see or ever witness. And the DUP done that single-handedly. So they did. And, you know, again, I'm going to sort of point out that, so we had met Edwin Poots 28th of December. I'm sorry if this is long-winded, but this is an exclusive that I'm just about to say here. Now, listen very carefully, folks. So we met Edwin Poots, and Edwin had asked me to write something to submit to the talks, right? So what we did, now this isn't the exclusive part because some people know about this. So what we did is that we asked for, you know, our own media, a fully funded media capability with mainstream capability for British unionism here in Northern Ireland. And what we did is that we shown a precedent, and the precedent was the Irish language radio station at the bottom of the Falls Road, fully equipped, you know, state of the art. It's, you know, we were inside it, and you want to see this place, they want for nothing. And I thought to myself, where is the British Unionist Media Centre like that one? Because we don't have one. And that's being funded by, you know, the British government, the Irish government, the European Union. We'd hear the PSNI, would you believe it or not? Cash-strapped PSNI. What about the cash-strapped housing executive that have to borrow money to fix houses, and they put money into that too? Anyway, without getting into that, that's another show. So we had been inside this radio station, and we thought, well, we want one of those too. We should have one of those. But no, we can't have one of those because they did not want to elevate British unionism here in Northern Ireland. So we asked for that. We asked for then a thing called a street for a hero, in where that if Irish nationalists and, you know, Irish Republicans want to try to green Northern Ireland street by way of the Irish language, in this paper that we submitted to the talks, we asked for you know, for this thing that we wanted called a street for a hero. And a street for a hero is in where that we could rename our streets after the people from the communities, from the military, from the security forces that went above and beyond and stood up and served and protected the community. We could literally name streets in their honor. And then what we wanted to do was to create an app in where that what we could do is that we could create a tourist trail that people could go around and see the streets where these people lived. You know, this is the sort of thing that we wanted to do, and it was really, really good for tourism. It would have brought lots of people here from all arts and parts to follow that. So again, they didn't want to give us that either. We asked for Carson centres. Now, we had knowledge that the provisionals, the Sinn Féin people, they had been asking for fully funded, I'm going to say Finucane centres, right? or they wanted like cultural hubs, if you like. That's what it was that they were after. And they were after actually 9 of them, believe it or not. They were after them in Donegal and wherever else, and not just in Northern Ireland. So we had knowledge of that, and what we asked for was, we said, well then, okay, well if they can strike that high, what we would like is a Carson Centre in every single county in Northern Ireland, 6 of them. But what a Carson Centre was for us was that there would have been, legal people in those centres, that if there had been, say, sectarianism, if there had been, anywhere where people were aggressing against our people, well, then it was a go-to place for people to go to, in where that these manned places with barristers or solicitors could have actually stood and fought our corner. And we thought that was, tactically a good thing to actually do. We asked for another thing. We asked for, this was presented to me from people from the Mid-Ulster area, and where there's a thing called Mid-Ulster English, and I was presented a paper from them. And what we did is we presented that also in this paper that we put in, with reference asking for an Ulster British, we were looking for an Ulster British Act. Now, what they subsequently got, because they got commissioners, is that we got then a British Ulster Commissioner, something along those lines. So they changed the wording of it, but I think that we had a big way, or a big say in actually achieving that. So here's the exclusive. The exclusive is that whilst that we had been asking for that. Now, I wrote that paper on New Year's Day. Here's the exclusive, people. Stephen, yes, I'll send Stephen. I'm going to send you a link in a wee second. So if you just bear with me, I'm just giving people this exclusive. Here's the exclusive. You see, I wrote that paper on New Year's Day of 2000, Old Year's Day, whatever way you want to call it, or not. I know it was New Year's Day, so it was 2020, the first day in 2020, and I got a phone call, and I was told that Simon Coveney from the Irish government was on his way up the road. Okay, now, I'm not going to tell people where I got that from, but this is the type of things that some people phone you about. So I was told that Simon Coveney was on his way up the road in New Year's Day of 2020, and he was en route to Hillsborough. Okay, Hillsborough Castle. And now here's the exclusive. And I thought to myself, like, New Year's Day? What's Simon Coveney going to Hillsborough Castle for on New Year's Day? So I quickly get on the phone to another man, and I say, look, trust me when I say this here, but I know that you know the hierarchy of the Orange Order. And trust me on this one, you need to put out a statement, and you need to say that if there's anything agreed today, New Year's Day, between the Irish government and the British government, that you're opposing it, because it's going to come to no good. And this man said to me, right, okay, John, no problem. Thanks very much for that. And he phoned me back again within about 5 minutes, and he says, look, don't worry. He says, because the Orange Order are there on New Year's Day. And not only were the Orange Order there, but the PUP were there, as far as I can tell. And goodness knows who else was there. And these people were all at Hillsborough Castle on New Year's Day, and this is the exclusive, on 2020. 2019, 2020. Now, I know what happens at those type of meetings is that they were in persuasion mode, and they were persuading these people to go and to sell this new decade, New Deal approach. And you can only imagine what it was that they were being promised in order to sell this new decade, New Deal on New Year's Day of all days. Would you imagine? I would have never, ever known who was there other than me desperately trying to get somebody to make a statement to say that if there was anything agreed between the British and Irish government with reference what has just happened there, because they hadn't actually done the new decade, New Deal. And I can remember actually doing a video straight after that. And I remember thinking is that Who put wind into DUP's sails to go with this Irish Language Commissioner, this basically an Irish Language Act? Who put wind in their sails? And I said in that video, and I could go back and get that video, this will come out in the near future. Well, it appears that some people were offered a thing called the Castlereagh Project, in where that there was going to be money dished out to loyalist communities, disadvantaged communities. There was going to be all sorts of money flowing. And this is exactly what happens time and time and time again, every time that there is something that needs to be sold. Well, not only is it being sold, but it's actually being bought at the same time. So there's an exclusive for people. On New Year's Day in 2020, there was quite a few people from our community in Hillsborough Castle, and they were in a place in where that some people were trying to persuade them to support the new decade, New Deal approach. Now, I'm going to say right now is that I believe that a lot of these people are beginning to learn, because we can now see a lot of these people shifting positions, but they're beginning to learn that sometimes money, where it's taken from, isn't a very, very good thing. You'd be better with no money than to take money from sources that ultimately wants to destroy you. Now, I know that was long-winded, but I sort of had to tell that story. And as I say, we see all these people now out marching against this protocol, and we see them standing strong, and we see them, well, a lot of them have been dragged kicking and screaming to the point in where that they are actually standing against these things. So again, that's not me to taint you, Lorna, with some of the things that I'll say on here, because you know me, but I say what it is that I feel that I need to say. But again, this is me on this stream. So Lorna, if you would just again like to tell people where that it is that you've been rapping doors. I mean, if you can round certain estates and so on. And if you do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually send Stephen a little link, and we'll bring Stephen on here as we speak. So over to you, Lorna, whilst I send Stephen a link.
Okay, so this past week, me and my team have been concentrating in Lisburn. We've been down around several estates, actually. Lime Tree Avenue, which is a bit of a warren. I was quite surprised at the size of it. And tomorrow we are hitting Ballymaclash, and tomorrow evening we'll be in attendance at the band parade of Ballymaclash, which I am really, really looking forward to. And then next week we are going out towards Drumore, and we'll be concentrating a week in Drumore. And for the next 5 weeks, we'll be visiting all these areas and then go back to the start again, and continuing on until the 5th of May. So if you see us out and about, please stop us, say hello, give us a chat,
Yeah, definitely. And Stephen Cooper, I've just sent the link there to Councillor Stephen Cooper. So if you just go and you click on that link, we'll notice you whenever that you're on screen, and it'll be good to actually speak to you. Let me just see there. Stephen messaged me. Just bear with me. Belfast on the 20th, 29th this month. I'm free during the day up to 5 p.m. if you wanted to do a pre-recorded chat. Oh yes, that's somebody else. So that was another Steve. Would you believe that? That was another Stephen that actually, and I just seen Stephen and I'm reading from him. Anyway, we're waiting on Stephen coming on. So people, look, whilst we wait for Stephen there for a few more minutes, Lorna, just bear with me. I'll tell you what I'm actually going to do. I'm just going to pop this up. I'm happy to say the numbers they're good across the platforms right now. So they are as we speak. So people, I'm going to, right, okay, let's get into this whilst we're waiting on Stephen coming. And I'll get your thoughts on it too, Lorna. This Friday is Good Friday. Good Friday is on the 15th from my recollection. Let me just see. Yeah, okay. So it's on the 15th of April. This coming Friday. Now, this month also there's a huge event at Stormont. I think it's on the 20th. No, it's next month. It's May. There's a centenary parade at Stormont on May this year. Right, that will be huge. There's people coming from all around the country. But this Friday, what we're going to be doing And, we're not worried whether there's, 5 people, 10 people, 100 people, 200 people, 600 people, whoever turns up, we're going to be happy, because what really matters to us is that what we do is that we protest against the Belfast Agreement. The Belfast Agreement, it was a disguise. It was built for appeasement, swindle and lies. The peace is a farce. The IRA guns are still there. And the truth of the matter is that London's afraid of another bomb scare. So I'm just going to pop Stephen onto the screen. Now, Stephen, if you just bear with me for a second, what I'm talking about here is that this Friday at Stormont, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be protesting against the Belfast Agreement. So protest against the Belfast Agreement, Good Friday, 15th of April, 2022, Stormont Estate, Belfast at 1:30 p.m. So we're going to have some guest speakers, everyone welcome, play your part, help make history, and event facilitated by Restore UK. So what I would like to ask people to do, look, as I change this picture, so have your say, what we want, it's your decision. Restore fairness and equality from within that agreement. If that agreement can't be returned to be in a place of a level playing field, fairness and equality, well, then it completely needs to go. And, and you can be against that agreement and you can still be for peace, because every person here, I can say without fear of contradiction, that we all want peace. We all want a better future for our nearest and our dearest and our children and our children's children. But we can't have, reconciliation has never, ever been built in a way that one side is unfairly enhanced and the other side are demonized and diminished. We can't build reconciliation based on that one side has their democracy removed, has a border thrust into the North Channel, the Irish Sea, known to others. We can't have a reconciliation process built upon that, an appeasement process in where that the people that will come out and cause death and destruction here, again, the IRA namely, well, they have to be appeased no matter what the cost, even if it's the cost of Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom. And that is totally, totally unacceptable. Now, whenever I look at this Belfast Agreement, let me explain this whilst this is still up. They say in the media that there wouldn't be a protocol without Brexit. Now, I'm going to say that is absolutely nonsense, absolutely nonsense. And I'll tell you why. If there hadn't been Brexit, well, there wouldn't have been a protocol. We didn't get Brexit. There's number one. And the second part of that is that, well, I would say that there wouldn't be a protocol if there wasn't a Belfast Agreement. And I'm going to tell you what the great and the good were saying on the run up to the protocol being in place. What the great and the good were saying is that they were saying that the Belfast Agreement has to be protected in every way, shape and fashion. That's what they were saying. And, the Americans were saying that, no, we have to protect the Belfast Agreement. We can't destroy peace. We have to do that. The Irish government were saying, well, we have to protect the Belfast Agreement. Even some in the British Parliament in Westminster were saying we have to protect the Belfast Agreement. And their answer to protecting the Belfast Agreement was the protocol. So without the Belfast Agreement, there wouldn't actually be a protocol. And if there's going to be a protocol being thrust into place unfairly, then the reality is that Belfast Agreement, the principle of consent mechanism from within it doesn't work for British unionists, and therefore we really need to protest against it. So this Friday, 15th of April, we don't care how many people turns up. We would like to see bands there. We would like to see people there. We would like to see people coming along and making it, showing that they're completely against this agreement, and we have an absolute right to do this in what's left of our democracy here in Northern Ireland. Stephen, welcome here on our screen, and thanks very much for coming along again, just like Lorna, at very, very short notice. So, Stephen, I'm going to ask you just to do what Lorna done. I seen some of the pictures just this week where, I seen you with you were in Portafogie Young Defenders, from my understanding, and also. So, and then the other thing is that I see you standing around down in the Portaferry area. So just over to you, Stephen, if you'd just like to introduce yourself to the live chat. Also, if you would like to tell us, I mean, I've seen that you teamed up just like Lorna the other day with Jim Allister, and you were treading the boards, so to speak. You were knocking the doors, talking to people. If you'd just like to tell us what was the itinerary, you met up with Jim, where did you go, who did you talk to, and what were the people saying on the doorstep? Because that's of paramount importance right now. Just introduce yourself, Stephen, and then off you go. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Very much, John. Thanks for inviting me. I just got on Facebook as I was trying to decipher my videos from Lurgan tonight, a very cold Lurgan. I'm just about to frost it by now, so I just got a cup of tea into me. Hi, Lorna. Hope you're okay. The last week or so, it's really began to kick off. I had a large trailer erected in Newtownards, which has caught the attention of many. Jim has been out doing, he tells me, over 20,000 steps per day in 3 different constituencies most days. For me here, I'm born and bred in Cumber. So we went down to the peninsula to kick that off with Portavogie and Corridor. Corridor first, and Portavogie was a rather wet day that we got soaked to the skin. The response has been very, very positive. I do sense a sea change in the unionist community. Enough is enough is our slogan, and I really think that's resonated very, very powerfully on the doorsteps. Lots and lots of people have told me that they're lifelong or were lifelong DUP supporters and voters. They have now crossed the Rubicon and came to TUV. They've recognised that we have been speaking the truth. We have insisted on our principles. Our party is founded on principle. That has at last been recognised. The bogeyman of if you don't vote for us, Sinn Féin will be the largest party. That has been dispelled. We're now on to Jeffrey's using the border poll now as another scaremongering device. So people are sick and tired of being sold a pup. And even tonight at Brownlow House, Jeffrey seemed a little bit subdued. The crowd were quite reticent in their reception. And in stark contrast to our party leader, and indeed the leader of unionism, Jim Allister, got a rousing reception. Even chants of TUV were emanating from quite a large section of the crowd, mostly bands people, and indeed loyal orders, which I think says quite a lot. So tonight in Lurgan, it was a very good night, very cold, as I say, but the turnout was fantastic. Lots of people on the streets. Here in Strangford, I'm very confident of returning a seat to TUV, strong in a lot of areas. Ballinhinch, Saintfield, which is not in my council area, I need to do a little bit more work. That's kicking off on Monday night in Kildare. I hope to be in Lisburn tomorrow night with one of the Cumberbands actually for the parade. I hope Lorna gets the support that she deserves. She's a very, very capable candidate. I'd love to see her in Stormont. I'd love to see many, many more TV candidates in Stormont. And if we can get, if I could just say this, Joe, if we can get to the magic number of 8, we could be recognised as official opposition. And it's not just about being recognised financially for that, but it would mean on a more pragmatic level that we would be able to get sight of papers and bills, etc. Because at present, Jim only gets them at the last moment because he's not the executive. So that would be a huge plus for us to have, prior notice of legislation that is going to be put upon us and be better prepared. So that really is what we're aiming for as a benchmark, and I hope we get much more than that. So all in all, my campaign is going well. It will escalate in the coming days and weeks. And next Friday, I will be there in Stormont with you because that's how I get into politics after leaving the forces. I was with Bob McCartney as his press officer in Stormont, in the first Stormont. I campaigned against the Belfast Agreement. I was vehemently opposed to it then, as I am now. It was the greatest mistake unionism has ever made in our history of Northern Ireland. That's my opinion. And I can go through chapter and verse with you because I was heavily involved in it in that time. And the Belfast Agreement was the greatest disaster ever to beset unionism. And this principle of consent nonsense, it was never the importance that was hinged or hung upon that was completely false. because the principle of consent was in the Sunningdale Agreement, was in the Anglo-Irish Agreement, was in even the Downing Street Declaration, framework documents. And the framework documents were the parameters set upon that we were going to go in to negotiate the Belfast Agreement with. And how stupid and how foolish was that? The framework documents were rejected by every single unionist party. That includes the UDP, the PUP, DUP, UUP, and the UK Unionist Party, who I was with. So how can you reject a set of documents and yet go in confined to those very same documents to negotiate a settlement for your community? It is the absolute definition of absurdity and stupidity. And that, I'm sure for people who are watching us and listening to this for the first time, probably explains a lot why we're in this mess that we were in. I'm not even going to go into the constitutional basis 1920 Government of Ireland Act, Section 75. We had the prisoner releases. We have a whole plethora of concessions to IRA Sinn Féin, purely because the British government wanted to keep bombs out of London. And that was the driving force for it. And the Docklands bombing brought the IRA to the table, and they couldn't wait to get Adams, McGuinness, and the rest of the Army Council in to appease them and pay them whatever they wanted to stop further bombs. I'm sickened by it, even thinking of it. It gets me angry thinking about the people I lost and who I served with, for these cowardly scum to be rewarded and appeased still to this day. And what galls me even more is that so-called unionists are prepared to sit with these people in the executive government of Northern Ireland, the place they wish to destroy. How sickening is that for the families, the victims who are left behind, having the stomach watching that? It is an utter disgrace. They want to be ashamed of themselves. And I hope this election, people will wake up and do the right thing and return TUV. Give the people of Northern Ireland a real chance. Because if they don't, and they vote for the same people over again, you're going to get the same thing. And do you want the same thing again? Do you want more dysfunctionality? That's the question. So there's my sales pitch for my election. So I'll shut up and give you a chance. I'll give everyone a chance.
No, Stephen, I'm actually glad to hear you speaking. And I have to say, you're one of the very few people that would be speaking like me whenever you say that, you talk about the different agreements and how absurd it was that these people had signed up to them. And you actually pinpointed something that I'm forever pinpointing on here. And I say that appeasement process began in February of 1996 with Docklands bomb. And it was after that we learned that this was an appeasement process, and it has lasted from that day through to this, and it has never changed from that day going forward. And that was the point I often say, when people should have realized that this was an uneven playing field, and nothing ever good was going to come out of it. Lorna, I would just like to ask you, and then we'll move around again to Stephen. You hear the DUP right now, and we're talking about the policy here of where they're saying, it's not about vote for Sinn Féin, or vote for us to keep Sinn Féin out. It's now saying vote for us in order to stop a border poll, because what's going to happen is that if they are the best party, the biggest party, they get the most votes, they're going to be ramping up their push for a border poll. Look, Sinn Féin's going to be ramping that up anyway. But have you any thoughts on that, Lorna? And then we'll move around to Stephen. And just I'm going to stop that light from flickering whilst you talk. Anyway, Lorna, go ahead. Go ahead, Lorna.
Sorry. Sinn Féin will always push for a border poll. That is their only agenda in anything. And whether they become the largest party, whether they become First Minister or not, they will push for that regardless. The thing about the border poll is, though, it can only be decided by Westminster. It can't be decided by DUP or Sinn Féin alone. Sinn Féin can certainly push for it, but it has to come from the Secretary of State, which is Westminster. So what are the DUP going to do about it? Nothing.
Yeah. And over to you, Stephen. Whenever I think that, the DUP are actually putting words in Sinn Féin's mouth, in my honest opinion, with the way that they're ramping things up. And it was a bit like, and let me explain it this way. I seen a video, in fact, I found a video there in where that Jeffrey Donaldson was actually boasting that his party leader, who was Arlene Foster, she wrote a joint letter with Martin McGuinness to Theresa May at the time, asking for no border in Ireland where it should be. And in fact, what they did was they put into the minds of Theresa May and the British government, well, there can't be a border there. There has to be one somewhere else. Arlene Foster actually asked for that. So she was the architect of the border in the North Channel by penning a letter jointly with Martin McGuinness. So over to you. What's your thoughts on what it is that Jeffrey Donaldson's doing right now with his leadership in terms of saying, vote for us, to stop Sinn Féin from ramping up the push for a border poll?
Yeah, well, there are three elements to this, and as usual, the snake oil salesman that Jeffrey is. There are three key elements to what he's doing now. That he refuses still to answer the question about if he would nominate under a Sinn Féin First Minister, and we all know that he would. That's the first thing. But this Sinn Féin thing has been dispelled, and I think he knows that, and that's why he's now changed tactic to go onto a border poll to scare the unionist electorate and to again going into the voting booth and thinking, well, you know, maybe this is right, maybe we do have to do the DUP again because there'll be a border poll. As Lorna quite rightly says, it's down to the Secretary of State, and it's in the Belfast Agreement, it's in the Northern Ireland Act 1998. However, the danger is, and there was a comment made by David Campbell this week saying that a border poll, he's not afraid of it, bring it on. But that is a very dangerous thing to say, because if there ever is a border poll, it can then be called every 7 years. And if that happens, if you think the Republicans have been very good at attrition as they are, then you ain't saying nothing yet, because when that happens, if they have every 7 years to aim at, you can be sure they will pull out every single stop, every 5th, 6th, and the 7th culminating year to get their way. And let me say this as well. The poll that came out early this week knocked Sinn Féin for 6th. And the Irish News led with a front page headline saying 30% of people want to have United Ireland, which in fact, if you look at that and you take away the slant from the green slant from the Irish News, I can fix that headline for you. The headline is 7 out of 10 people do not want a United Ireland. And it's very interesting to see how quickly Michelle had changed her tact and started talking about the cost of living and the crisis about fuel, energy, everything else. And that's politicking at its, some would argue, its best, because it's tactically astute. And I would say it's opportunism at its worst. And also Jeffrey is in the same boat, because now he knows that the Sinn Féin First Minister has been seen through. People are no longer going to fall for it. When he's pressed on will he nominate, he won't answer. We can answer unequivocally and say we will not nominate. So if you want to stop a Sinn Féin First Minister, you vote for us. You vote for Lorna Smith in Lagan Valley. You vote for Stephen Cooper here in Strangford and else and other TV candidates. And he knows that. And that's why he switched to, if you don't vote for us, we're the only people who can stop a border poll. It's utter nonsense. It's blackmail, it's coercion, and it's a sign of desperation, I believe. And the third element that I was going to finish on is whenever Jeffrey's losing a crowd, whenever Jeffrey is losing a room, or he's getting heckled, the old standby, the old faithful, is unionist unity. And he gives it, we need to be united. We have to have unionist unity. Together we can do this. We are against the protocol. It's his party who are implementing the protocol. They were the one puts posts in. They were the ones who were implementing it day in, day out. And now, because there's an election coming, it was collapsed a month or so before the budget was going to come. Big deal. No bills were going to go through anyway. So the unionist unity thing is again opportunism, because if you want to have a united unionist front, let's have that. So what about this? I appeal to Jeffrey Donaldson that come along beside us, and even Doug Beattie, and say, okay, we don't want IRA Sinn Féin to be in charge of this country, the country they wish to destroy and who have tried to destroy for years, for decades. So let's all state quite clearly that we will not serve under a Sinn Féin First Minister. And then we can have unionist unity. So for all the people who want unionist unity, I am prepared to be united with unionism. But unionism cannot be united if it's to the detriment of the union. And that is the key point. And until other times when other parties can come along and stand shoulder to shoulder with us in TUV and do the right thing for the union and do everything that we can to defend the union and get rid of the union destroying protocol, then they can't call themselves a unionist. So yes, I'm all for unionist unity, but be very careful, folks, that unionist unity isn't being used to pull the wool over your eyes and pretend that there is some grand design or grand arrangement or grand strategy, because all it is self and party preservation. And I stress self-preservation first and party preservation second, because if the talks between him and Doug Beattie had have resulted in Doug standing aside and having them two together and conjoining them, I have no doubt Jeffrey would have taken that, and we would have seen a different story right now.
Yeah, definitely, Stephen. And Stephen, thanks for that. Stephen, what I want to do here is I'm going to play a short video. And again, it was based on something that you just said, and then we'll move around the screen and we'll just ask for some opinion on what it is that you just seen. Now, we blagged our way into the grounds of Stormont there just last summer. I think it was it was probably around this time last year. In fact, it was whenever, there was buses burning. When was that? That was the start of last year, wasn't it, really? It was about this time, wasn't it? Around this time frame. So we flagged our way into Stormont to make a little video. Now, we said that we were going to see where the centenary stone was meant to be, but then we decided to make a short video. So I'm just looking for the piece. If you just bear with me for a sec. Not many videos here. Nothing was planned this evening, by the way, so sometimes this is the best way to do video. Where is it? It's somewhere. Go back down. No, it's way up there somewhere. Oh, right. Yes, here we go. I'm playing this, and I'm going to ask you to give us your opinion on Stormont, Lorna. Just in general, what's happening in there? Should people share power with people? Let's remember that had their guns on the streets in 2019, again in 2020. And we have the evidence here where you would have seen people attached to D Company of the IRA, that's the conglomerate linked to Sinn Féin. They were standing over a coffin of Mr. Rooney, firing shots with guns. That's the people in your government still have guns. Anyway, let's play this little video and we'll come back and we'll ask you some commentary on Stormont in general. As people are focusing on young people riding in Belfast, they really should be focusing on this building here. This building and the institutions that surround it are occupied by the biggest criminal gang in Europe. And that is the elephant in the room. That is the elephant in the room that no one is speaking of right now. This criminal gang occupies a place in where they can destroy Northern Ireland, and where they can use their privileged position to destabilise ordinary people, ordinary citizens in Northern Ireland, whereby they can set back reconciliation for decades. And who is it that holds them there? Who is it that has put them in place? Who is it that stands beside them and ensures that they can stay in place? Well, that's our own DUP. That's our own British unionist politicians that we elected, that we put in power. We're coming down towards a statue of the founding father of Northern Ireland, in the year of our centenary, in the year where we are 100 years old. What is actually happening is that the criminal gang that occupies the house on the hill, they are destroying us. And there's only one meaningful proactive protest that we can make right now. And that's not up to our young people to make that protest. That's not up to young people who have been discriminated against, who have been separated from the rest of the United Kingdom, and who have had their democracy denied because of the threat of violence from this criminal gang. It's not up to the young people to fight this battle. It's up to our own political leaders
and they're failing right now. And it's because of the failure of politics that we find ourselves in this unpalatable situation.
So the failure of politics is how that I see it as to why that those riots, for example, would have occurred last year. Over to you, Lorna. I mean, what's your thoughts on what I call the criminal gang headquarters?
We all know, and we should all be aware that for the last 24 years, yes, Sinn Féin has been in Stormont, but they're not there to make Northern Ireland work. Now, they couldn't destroy Northern Ireland with the bullet or the bomb, but they are trying their hardest to destroy it politically. There's nothing democratic about what we have in Stormont. So there's not. You can't vote one party in, you can't vote one party out. They have to work together. That's never going to work, especially with a party like Sinn Féin IRA, who do not want Northern Ireland to work. The way the TUV see it, the way we see it, there should be voluntary coalition where people are willing to be in Stormont. There should be an opposition, an effective opposition makes a workable government where unionists at both sides of the community, I can't even just say unionists, but both sides of the community can vote in the parties that they want and kick out the parties that they don't. That's democracy. We don't have democracy. It's a sham. It's an absolute sham. And there's nowhere else in the world has any system like that, just us. And it's ridiculous. Appeasement to terrorists, terrorism pays. It shouldn't. Get them out.
Yeah, very well said, Lorna. And if we look at the UUP right now, well, they're saying that they want the programme for government and let's everybody get in and work it together. That's what they're saying. Stephen, over to you. I mean, your thoughts on the criminal gang headquarters off the Upper Newtownards Road there?
Yes, well, Lorna's covered some of the points that are quite obvious to everyone. It is blatantly obvious that the appeasement process, if you look back at the inception of the Belfast Agreement, a very dark day for unionism, as I have written before about it endlessly and speaking about it now. It is self-evident. If you look at the Northern Ireland Act 1998, that's why Sinn Féin insisted on things like the petition of concern, that if they had 30 signatures, then it would have to have a weight-up majority to protect themselves of 60%. You had other mechanisms within that where you had to designate unionists and nationalists. These were all protections and safeguards put in for the Republican movement. They did not want to have democracy because democracy is the will of the majority of the people. Whenever you mention democracy in that context, they cry foul and they say, we no longer have an orange state for an orange people and all this other nonsense about the days of orange rule, the days of unionist rule. Well, the simple fact is this. If there are 55% unionists or whatever the case may be, that is a majority. That is how democracy works. And as Nora says before, there is nowhere else in the Western world, there is no other democracy that would tolerate this. It is an absolute joke. And it's not a joke. It is so serious, it is not funny. And it is becoming more and more apparent that the British government, I honestly don't know what else they have got left to give other than a border poll eventually, because they have emptied the concession cupboard time and time again. They destroyed the RUC. They get rid of the UDR, my regiment, into the Royal Irish, and now disbanded the home battalions. So if you look at all the concessions over the years, and of course the Irish Language Act is yet another SOP, and as we witnessed a few years back, they were willing to pull down the Assembly because they didn't get their Irish Language Act. So now we have that put in the back burner because they don't want that to come through before the election. I suspect that's more to do with protecting the DUP and the UUP, who are in the sidelines sniping about it but have done nothing to counter it. And I think that's maybe a bit of posturing from the NIO. But Stormont, as it is, as it was, and as it always will be, can never work with this administration the way it's set up. If you don't have a voluntary coalition, if you don't have an opposition, that's not democracy. And if this keeps on going, which I hope and pray that it will not, Northern Ireland is in a very precarious position. And our people would never, ever get stable government because that system cannot work. And we are the only party, on the soapbox here again, forgive me, but we are the only party who have published in our manifesto alternatives to trying to get some functionality at the heart of Stormont. Everyone else seems to just want to get back in there for whatever reason, be it self-preservation, financial gain, or I don't know what, but it seems principles are out the window and the pounds in the pocket. Ourselves in TUV, many of us, could go on, do different things and other things. We're in this for the right reasons. We're not in this for self-gain. I'm not in politics for self-gain. I could be getting on with other things, but my heart's in it. And I believe in what we're doing. I believe it's right. And as my party leader often quipped, nothing that is morally wrong can ever be politically correct. So that's where we stand with it. It's principles first, union first, and we will do everything we can to stand, as our forefathers have done for generations. And as Lorna said before, we don't want to be the generation that let all those generations that came before us down. And that's a line I'm very proud of, for Lorna saying before. And I stand over that 100%.
Yeah. Stephen, it's a breath of fresh air to hear you actually speaking like that. And before that we go on, with two more subjects to actually ask you a question each on. But, I can just tell by the way that you delivered what you delivered there, that it is about passion. It's not about glory. And too many of our unionist parties, it's for them, it's about glory, it's about self-advancement, it's about standing on the world stage, it's about who they can be seen with. And that's what they're after. This is what these hierarchies are trading for. They're not working for and on behalf of British unionists, ordinary people. I'm going to say, and I've said this before, and I said this when I had Jim on our channel there a few months ago, I thank Jim for keeping the TUV on the road. And he kept it on the road. Things happen for a reason, my mother used to say. And he kept it on the road for this day. And I believe that the TUV's day is about to come. And as you say, Stephen, earlier, that even if there are, as many as 8, who knows? But, to put it like this, any more MLAs in there for the TUV is a result. And let's hope that there's more than we could imagine that actually come back through that door and begin fighting for and on behalf of the people of Northern Ireland. So the next subject that I wanted to discuss with you is so the UUP last week, they were meeting a man, let's just say, and they met this man, and this man was seen in a video pouring his heart out, crying, and wanting to make restitution and amends for, I'm not too sure what it was he was trying to make amends for. Was it somebody that he knew that murdered somebody, or was it, I don't know, was it maybe closer to home? I just can't quite tell what it was that was happening. But yet the TUV, or the UUP, seemed to be inviting this man to a little tea party. And that's what to do with people who wants to destroy you. Is it? I mean, what do you think of that? We're talking about Joe Brolly whenever we speak about that, Lorna. So over to you. What's your thoughts on the UUP and Joe Brolly making amends for, he was asking for a friend, I think, for amends. That's the way I can read that video.
I think in his TV interview, I think it was he gave his kidney away and he felt that was atonement for, but he never divulged, of course, what it was he was actually atoning for. I know there was an RUC, a PSNI investigation into that. What happened to that? It's all been swept under the carpet again. But I was absolutely horrified last Saturday night whenever I seen that appear online, that the Ulster Unionist Party, who were out canvassing with their leader, their deputy leader, and other candidates, were sat in the company of this man enjoying a few refreshments in a bar. This man is well known for members of his family and what they belong to. He's a GAA commentator. He will not apologise for grounds being named after murdered terrorists. He thinks that's a good and proper thing to do. And I'm just horrified that a unionist leader feels that somebody of that calibre is appropriate to sit within a pub and have a little chin wag and a get together and get endorsement from. That's not something I want to be associated with. And I am pretty sure that people on the doors, when they start hearing that, and start realising that that's a company that the Ulster Unionist leader likes to keep, I'm pretty sure they might change their mind about where their vote goes, because that says it all to me.
Yeah, definitely. And your thoughts on that, Stephen?
Well, I was going to suggest have the bleep machine ready for me, but I think it's pathetic. I think Mr. Beattie is trying to be all things to all men and women. It's just a bridge too far. I mean, Mr. Brawley is, he said it, his friendship with Martin McGuinness, the Bogside butcher. We all know his past and his refusal to give comfort to the victims' families, to come clean, to at least try to have some form of redemption and give some sort of comfort. For a so-called Christian man, he wasn't very Christian in his lifetime. He had ample opportunity to give some comfort to the families, and he, as usual, put two fingers up them and continued, not only that, but continued to revere, celebrate, and give orations at gravesides for all his so-called volunteers. Now, not volunteers, are cowards, cowardly scum who hid behind shadows, put bombs under my colleagues' cars, RUC officers and innocent victims shot for sometimes mistaken identity, sometimes even just for being the wrong religion in the wrong place. So I do think it perhaps warrants further investigation as to what exactly he was looking to get off his chest, what it was he was feeling guilty about, or what he wanted to I don't know, bare his soul, or whatever the case may be. Perhaps Mr. Beattie can help us with that. I don't know. I do not for the life of me understand what on earth Doug Beattie was thinking, what good would come out of that. Because whatever you do in life, and we all make mistakes, as I know, but whenever you're doing something like that, surely you would think to yourself, what if I'm going to do this, what good is going to come of it? And if you're a party leader, you have to think to yourself, what good is this going to do my party that I'm leading? Why, oh why would you do that? Why would you have someone like that, who a prominent GAA commentator and fan, analyst, former player, I believe as well. GAA have got, they are still steeped in Republican terrorism. And I say that with caution, but I'm choosing my words carefully. They have stadiums, trophies, and teams named after terrorists. Now, if that was any other sport, if that was rugby, football, hockey, I don't know, basketball, anything else, that would not be allowed. Under Section 75 of the Northern Ireland Act 1998, we would be hauled over the coals. Recently, I moved a motion to get our Union flag flying all year round our war memorials. It now has to go out to an equality assessment, a consultation. It'll take 6 months. And that's for our war memorials, remember. And that was my third time getting that through. And to go back about the stone, just whenever you're saying about Jim Allister, for me, is the leader of unionism, without any doubt. He's been steadfast, stoic, and stable all throughout since 2007, whenever he formed the party. He has been battling up there on his own. I can go up there from time to time to help as much as I can. He is a phenomenal human being, a very personable man. People who don't know him really don't know him. He is so determined. He's driven. A man of 69 years old. He's the energy of a 15 or 16-year-old. He is totally and utterly dedicated to this cause. And he's been up there on his own, battling for all of us. And I really do think that the people of Northern Ireland owe him, the unionist people of Northern Ireland owe him a huge debt. And that debt can be repaid in some way this election coming up on May the 5th. For my part, I'm in the council on my own. And I can tell you that is not easy, as Lorna knows sometimes. You know, I would get fed up from time to time, battling away on myself. But I will say this, we do get things done. TUV is effective, regardless of our small numbers. And whenever you talk about the Centenary Stone Stormont, I managed, with the help of an independent councillor, get 5 stones in my borough. Now, that's me out of 40 people. Now, imagine if we had a dozen MLAs in Stormont. The calibre of our candidates, the ability of our candidates, and the capabilities from that collective group together, then the Northern Ireland office are quaking in their boots. The DUP are very, very frightened. The Ulster Unionist Party, I don't even think they realise the damage they've done, because they have morphed so far to the alliance that they're nearly the alliance themselves. And you could say, if you step back and look at unionism in general, part of me looks at it and goes, well, maybe that's a good thing that the Ulster Unionist Party, the great, bulwark it used to be of unionism, if they could harness and bring back that borrowed vote, in inverted commas, that went over to the alliance, if they can bring that back towards unionism, that would be a good thing. But here's the problem. They're not going to bring it back into unionism, because the Ulster Unionist Party have moved so far to the alliance that bringing it back into the Ulster Unionist Party is not coming back into unionism. It's coming back into some sort of alliance light stroke liberal unionist. And it is not the unionist ethos that we know and recognise. So it's a false dawn. It's not going to help. And if you look at the response tonight from some of the speakers on the stage, I think it's Mr. Ferguson and the Apprentice Boys, was very, 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 very fierce about Doug Beattie. Jimmy Bryson spoke incredibly well. I think that's the best I've ever heard him speak. And of course, Jim, his usual consistent, solid, powerful message. And the crowd tonight, I've never heard a crowd like that boo another unionist. I know, even through the heady days of the 1998 Belfast Agreement, whenever we were up against Trimble and the Ulster Unionist Party back then was split, that was quite bitter. But I have never felt an atmosphere so anti a unionist leader. It's even worse now than what it was for Trimble. So I don't know what the Ulster Unionist Party are going to do. I don't know if there's anybody in the wings who want to take the leadership off him, if it ever comes to it. And I think the people in that party are nodding dogs. But I hope when the electorate have their say on the 5th of May, they get the answer they deserve, that they have betrayed us, they have deserted us, and they deserve everything they get, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I call it joining the other team to score goals against yourself, or that which you claim to represent. And, they don't, as you say, we talked about that earlier on, myself and Lorna, in where that, I had a conversation with a guy just yesterday, and he said to me, it's a good thing that they've joined with the, they're going to take the votes off the Alliance Party. I said, well, look, that would be all good and well if they weren't going to operate the same way as the Alliance Party, because the Alliance Party want to destroy us. And look, this is my honest opinion on the UUP right now, is that they are seeking to put themselves in pole position for the top jobs in this so-called New Ireland. There's no other way of looking at it. That's what they're trying to do. Therefore, they're not unionists. They should redesignate. They should be taken for trades descriptions. That's what they should be taken for. I want to play. This is the last thing that we want to do. And look, and I have to say, I'm really enjoying this. I'm sitting and I'm listening. I'm not doing too much talking, and I've just had some messages there from 2 people saying that your guests this evening, John, are very, very good, and we want to hear some more from you. So there you go. You're getting that from the background, and that's from the YouTube channel. Now, I want to play this little video, and this is just to close. This is just to give you something to really go for and to shout about. I'm going to play a short video clip from Mary Lou McDonald. Now, this was in Castlewellan just a few years ago at a hunger strike commemoration pre-COVID. And listen very, very carefully to what Mary Lou McDonald said or says. And I'll quote it and you'll listen for it. But she says is that we will not let them be criminalized. And who was she talking about? She was talking about Thomas McElwee and the likes of Francis Hughes. Now, Francis Hughes and Thomas McElwee and Dominic McGlinchey were a team at one time. And, we all know who these people are. And, there's talk that these people, of those people, being involved in decapitating a child. You know, and she will not let them be criminalized. These people have absolutely no shame. But let's play this video. We'll come back and we'll ask you, Lorna, on your thoughts on what you just heard. We'll move to Stephen, and then we're going to ask you one more question, and we'll be closing off for this evening. But here we go.
Today, Irish Republicans commemorate the sacrifice and celebrate the lives of our hunger strikers. The 1981 hunger strike was a pivotal moment in Irish history, which saw Republican prisoners thwart British government efforts to criminalise the struggle for a united Ireland. And here in Ireland, Republicans remember with deep pride the sacrifice and the heroism of those who died in the H-blocks. Francis Hughes, Raymond McCreesh, Thomas McElwee. We will not allow them to be criminalised ever. 10 who took a stand, 10 who could not be broken, 10 lives cut short, 10 grieving families. Figures who will never be forgotten.
You know, I don't know how to think about that. We will not let them be criminalised. Over to you, Lorna.
I do not have a good word to say about that woman or anything that comes out of her mouth, and I won't apologise for that. The sanitisation of who these people were must stop. They were cold-blooded killers at the end of the day. Nothing more, nothing less. They weren't fighting for freedom. They went out to kill indiscriminately, and they did so. They were criminals. Sinn Féin IRA will never recognise that, but moral thinking people do, and that's and it's down to us. I think that this is where unionists have failed slightly. We need to start standing up to this sanitisation. So we do. We need to start telling our stories. I've been doing it online for a long time, but I need others to join me. I need people to speak up. We have victims. They need to be recognised. These men that went on hunger strike were not victims. They were murderers. So they were. And the IRA let those men die for their cause. They didn't have to die. They chose to die. So they did. The thousands of victims that the IRA made, they didn't choose that. It's sick. Yeah. It's sickening. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And when you think about the likes of Mary Lou saying that they will not let them be criminalised, and what that's very insensitive. And you've got to think about their victims, and you got to think that there's a lot of grieving families out there, and what they are actually doing is that they are adding insult to the injury of the people that they've made victims by claiming that we will not let them be criminalised. I mean, how must those families feel that our government, that, you know, even the Irish government, the Americans, that these people are letting these parasites, these vile creatures get away with doing what they're doing, adding insult and rubbing salt into the wounds of the things that they've actually done. Stephen, have you any words for what you just heard there?
I think the thing that there were two things that well, it all annoyed me. But there are two things in particular that annoyed me. One, as as Lorna and yourself have covered, about they will not let them be criminalised. But what struck me, and it is typical of the sick hypocrisy of the IRA. She mentioned about the hunger strikers and their grieving families. I mean, grieving families. Think about those two words, grieving families. Yeah. The IRA made thousands of families grieve. Thousands. And she had the sheer audacity to stand there and speak about grieving families. And in the next sentence, paid tribute to people, individuals who were out with murder in their hearts, who had sat and meticulously planned how to kill and murder and maim men, women, and children. Indiscriminate bombs, undercover booby traps, shooting people coming out of chapel, coming out of their place of worship in churches, shooting people who were maybe off duty, going about their daily business, delivering milk, delivering coal, fixing someone's car. In fact, sometimes even they set them up fixing another Republican's car or whatever the case may be. And that is absolutely despicable. But it shows you the total lack of humanity of IRA Sinn Féin. That is the most blatant expose that if people are watching this tonight, they look at that and try to get their heads around what deluded, deranged mindset can have someone stand up and speak about grieving families on behalf of the movement, the Republican movement, the Republican organization, who for decades had the barbarity, the absolute horrific, horrendous human rights abuses. They talk about rights and human rights. The biggest right of all is the right to live. And they did away with that thousands of times over. And they would have had more if it wasn't for the gallant security forces who stood between the terrorists and the wider community. I know that we stymied a lot of their attempts. It was somewhere about 7 out of 10 attempts didn't go through because of our activity on the ground and our intelligence. And I think that Lorna's right. We do have to start get rid of this sanitization, because the longer that they stay in Stormont, the longer they are accepted by the media. I mean, I even hear people saying, whenever I'm on the radio on the odd occasion or TV, they'll say, if I speak about IRA Sinn Féin, they say, well, they have a mandate. Yeah, but they may have people who vote for it, but it doesn't make it right. And that in 1998, we had the much lauded Mitchell principles that you're only committed to peaceful and democratic means. IRA Sinn Féin have proven time and time again that whenever they don't get their way, they threaten violence and in fact carry out acts of violence. There's no place in society for people like that, never mind executive government of the place they wish to destroy. So I could go on all night about this, John. I'm very passionate about it because I feel very, very strongly, as I know Lorna does as well, for the barbarity and the horrific human rights abuses that Irish Sinn Féin are guilty of. And they say it was a war. It was anything but a war. But if they insist it was, then I would look forward to having Mary Lou and the rest of the Army Council and the IRA Sinn Féin representatives and activists being taken to the war in The Hague and questioned. Because, as we all know, there are no records of their acts of barbarity. But of course, with the security forces, we are subject under the law, and of course we have the records there, and everything's recorded. Irish Sinn Féin will never come clean. Martin McGuinness never came clean, and the rest of them will never come clean. How could you ever trust any of them to tell the truth when they're proven murderers, and their list of crimes are as long as your arm? So I'm sickened by that video, but I don't think it would come as any surprise to anybody, never mind if you're unionist or nationalist, but any self-respecting human being with any moral code would be absolutely appalled by the hypocrisy and double standards from Mary Lou McDonald.
Stephen, I have to say I'm really enjoying the chat with yourself and with Lorna, and I can see that others on the live chat from right across the screens here actually are also, and we must get you back on again. And I see John Ross is actually in the chat there also. So John, this is a shout out to you, and I did say before, and you had offered actually to come on, why don't we make it a date in the very, very near future, and what we'll do is we'll put even a fourth or a fifth or a sixth person on the screen, and we'll just generally talk about, and I'm going to frame it like this. I'm going to say we're going to talk by way of passion, not by way of seeking any kind of glory, because what we're here for is that we're here to put right the wrongs of the so-called unionist leaders and leaderships and party political machines of the past. I mean, ever since I've been a child, these people have promised us the earth, the moon, and the stars until they get elected, and then the goalposts change. You know, I'm not going to be putting my fingers or my hand in that fire ever again. And I just got to thank God that the TUV is here in a real time of need. And as I say, as my mother would have said, things happen for a reason. And well, very soon I believe we're going to see the TUV stay. Now, things don't happen overnight. It takes a wee while to put things together properly. But, you know, the best things that are ever built is built in a way, they're built meticulously, they're built incrementally, they're built over time. And if you do it that way, you get it right. So watch this space for the TUV to be taking charge of British unionism here in Northern Ireland. And Stephen, on the thing that you said is that you were talking about tonight in Lurgan. And we've seen that many times. And, you know, I've seen Lorna there at Drumore. It was one of the first times that the stage was occupied by all people. And, you know, every time that we go to these meetings, and I've been at quite a few, right? I mean, I was in Ballymoney there just last week, or was it the week before? And we just see it is that they are celebrating the fact that Jim Allister's on the stage. And, you know, Jeffrey and the DUP hierarchy have only themselves to blame right now for the reception that they're getting. And it's a good reception. It's a good feeling to actually see that we're not alone in thinking that things has to change, Stephen and Lorna. What I would like to do is I would like to ask you just one more question. And this is something that we ask most people whenever they come on Restore. You call this channel Restore, and Restore for a very good reason. And you'll look at the little logo there in the corner, and you'll see there's the two wind back, you know, used to see in the video recorder years ago there. And what that means for me and for the people on Restore is that we need to rewind the time in where that we politicians do exactly what they said. I mean, we elect politicians to serve and protect us, and that's of most paramount importance. And isn't it time that we had politicians serving and protecting us, and politicians that say that they're going to do this, that, and the other, and they actually follow through with what it is they promised the electorate before they actually get elected? And I believe that we will have that within the TUV, because just listening to Stephen, just listening to Lorna this evening, what you will have noticed, and I'm talking to the live chat here, is that you'll have noticed that these people are just like us. These people are sickened to their core with the things that has been going on. These people are sickened to the core with the turn a blind eye approach of our so-called political leaders ever since the Belfast Agreement was signed, and even before it. We have seen successive unionist parties rolling over, giving in, and giving in again until this point in where that we have absolutely nothing left to give. And I believe that these two people sitting on the screen just in front of you, well, they're people just like you, just like I, who understand the need to get things right. We don't have time on our side. We have to get this right, and we have to get this right with haste. And I believe that a vote for these people, a vote for the TUV, well, we'll see a different form of unionism. In fact, I don't believe that the media will like the TUV to get elected in great numbers. I don't believe that, and I should say the activists in the media, of which that they're the greater number of people in the media nowadays. And I don't believe that the Irish government, the EU, even the British government, I don't believe that there are many people in the political world which will like to see the TUV being elected. So we need to ensure that we do exactly that. We elect these people, and we elect them in good numbers. So I would just like to ask you, Lorna, before that it is that we close, and we'll play us out with a very good, something that's going to put a smile on everybody's faces, because we've been talking real serious there for the last hour or so. But Lorna, Restore UK. I mean, I would like to see politics being restored to exactly what it should be. British unionist politics being restored to a place of, if a politician says that he's going to do A, B, or C, well, that's exactly what a politician does. So restore my faith in politics by having politicians elected that's going to work for and on behalf of British Unionist people. Lorna, I would just like to ask you, what is it that you would like to restore in, trying to think here, it's April of 2022?
First of all, I think we need to restore the moral compass within our unionist MLAs that are in Stormont. Well, they kind of don't have one, but they've proven that time and time again. So let's put people in that do have a moral compass. Only then can we get to where we need to be. I think it's important that we restore the security of Northern Ireland within the Union. We need that back. That is one of the most important things that we can do for our people. And only then can we then tackle everything else that needs to be tackled in an open and honest way. And that's something we haven't had for 24 years. And don't we deserve it now? I think so.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Lorna. That was a very good thing to restore. And Stephen, yourself, I mean, is there anything that you would like to restore today in 2022?
Well, I'm conscious of the time, John, but I have quite a long list. I mean, what would I like to restore in 2002? Well, there are things that wouldn't be restored, but things that can be rectified. Restoring democracy is paramount, with getting rid of mandatory coalition. That's first and foremost. And that is imperative that we do that to get a functioning government for the people of Northern Ireland and a stable and sustainable government for Northern Ireland. The other things that come to mind are maybe a bit more basic and maybe a bit easier. For example, the definition of a victim, which I speak about in our election broadcast that you will see in due course. The definition of a victim needs to be addressed. That we currently have a victim is equated, you can have a terrorist who went out and maybe got injured trying to murder someone, but yet they are equated as a victim in the same way as the actual victims that they've made. I mean, that's absolutely unbelievable in this day and age that is allowed to happen. But of course, that is par for the course for the appeasement process. We have an issue with policing. We need to address that. There is zero confidence in my community in policing at the moment. Tonight in Lurgan, we had a helicopter up above us watching us. We had a significant groundswell of police officers on the ground. I'm not quite sure if I heard rumours that there's a bit of a security threat, but I think it's perhaps a little bit convenient. And I noticed that the policing board at long last, even with Jerry Kelly on board, and I put a motion through my council, and I know Jim tried to put a bill through to Stormont to exclude terrorists from the policing board, but of course didn't get the support, but it was at least highlighted. And I'm pleased that at least the policing board have asked for the files from MI5 about provisional IRA, because as Jamie Bryson mentioned tonight, the investigative unit are not investigating the IRA. They have not mentioned provisional IRA for I think the last time we met the Chief Constable, Jim and I, was 2017. So it's 5 years ago. So the Chief Constable leaves a lot to be desired, as we know, in my opinion anyway. He stands over the previous report, which still say the IRA is active and are controlling Sinn Féin. So that's a step in the right direction, but we must have robust, fair and equitable policing. We must have that right across the board. Everyone should be subject to the law equally, without fear and without favour. And that's one of the fundamental things about society. You cannot have a functioning society without the rule of law. And if the rule of law has been decimated and diluted to the extent where, in the case of the Bobby Story funeral, to give you one glaring example of the sheer failure of the PSNI to properly police that, and the fallout from that afterwards, the media turned a blind eye to it, with the exception of Stephen Nolan, did try, and of course Sinn Féin threw the teddy out of the pram. But that gives you an example. And at the same time, I remember we sat with the Chief Constable, myself and Jim there that last time. And there was a band going through Londonderry, and they had parachute reg. I hope John Ross is still watching. They had John's Old Regimental wings on their band uniform, on their shirts. Now, that band was stopped from walking by the PSNI. And I interjected at that stage, and I asked, who gave the order to stop this band? Was there a complaint received, or what was the issue? And it was purely because of the insignia on the shirt sleeves. And that is incredible. Compare that to the Storey funeral, where they had an organised funeral. There was even allegations of they had subcontracted out the control to a community group, and we can all guess who that was. And they had hundreds of people in uniform walking down the road, flouting the rules. Everyone else was obeying, adhering to the COVID regulations. And here we have thousands of people, not hundreds, but thousands of people giving two fingers to everybody else because they're the IRA and they are untouchable. And that is an utter disgrace on so many different fronts. So what would I like to restore? I would like some sort of normality that we all want. For the next generation, for us all to live in some sort of normality, in some society where we're not dictated to by terrorists and we're not being ruled by terrorists. That is as basic as it is. And until we address that problem, and yes, we do have to upset the apple cart, and all these great and good who are all about peace and about love and happiness, they have to come up to the reality, because the more you push, and the more you push, and the more you push, my community will start to push back. And if this protocol is not seen to by political means, if there's a political vacuum, that is dangerous. And the precedent that has been set, as Lorna said earlier on, terrorism pays. What sort of example is that to set to anybody in society? Because you get the hotheads and you get everybody else. I hope it doesn't come to that, and I appeal for calm. But that's the path that some are now talking about. And I don't want that to happen. I want politics to work. I want us to be able to go up and storm it, make a difference, put the legislation through, put the bills through, get the support, hopefully get the support from Democrats who do not want to be ruled by terrorism and do not want to be threatened and constantly blackmailed by terrorism. That's the future that I want for my next generation. And I'm sure that's the vast majority of people in Northern Ireland want the same. I think it's reasonable. I don't think it's extreme. And I resent the stereotyping of my party that we are some sort of extreme unionist, hardline unionist. It's not hardline about that. It is purely dealing with the moral quagmire that we now find ourselves in because of the Belfast Agreement, because of the appeasement process, which started in the 90s with John Major speaking with them. And that is when the rot set in, and that is where we're going. So if you poison the chalice, it has to be changed, it has to be rinsed out and chalice removed and replaced with something different, something pure, and something solid to build a foundation upon. Otherwise, we will continue to flounder, we will continue to sink into this immoral morass of a swamp engulfed with appeasement, concessions, and immorality. And that is where we're going wrong. That's where we have went wrong. And if we don't change it, that's where we will continue to go wrong. So things have to change. The only way you can change it is change how you vote, change the people you put in. Because again, if you vote for the same thing, the same people, you're going to get the same thing all over again. And we're going to be sitting here in 6 months' time, lamenting the fact that some of our population, some of our unionist community haven't got up off their backsides and voted. That's the biggest danger. That's the apathy that Sinn Féin are counting upon. That's what they want. They don't want unionism to go out to vote. They want people to be disillusioned, disenchanted, and sit at home. We must motivate our community to get registered, get on the electoral register, and get voting and vote for the Anti-Protocol Unionist Party, TUV, and then transfer to anybody else who's against the protocol. Yeah. That's what we're saying.
Stephen, thanks very much for that. And again, looking at some of the live chat there, I think everybody sort of agrees with you. And, you know, again, I think what you were saying there is restore integrity right across the board in the body politic here in Northern Ireland, because There's absolutely no integrity whatsoever. And just on that note of the PSNI, I mean, the reason why we got the PSNI, we can all remember, is that the IRA, they were saying that the RUC were a political policing force. If you can remember the memes, or not the memes, but certainly the posters of that day where they had RUC men with orange sashes on and so on. And Patton came in and he wrote the Patton recommendations, or the Patton report. And there was words that came out of that Patton report that translated into the foundation, the cornerstone of what was the PSNI. And the words went like this, is that Patton says that he wanted, or we needed, a police force that was fair, impartial, free from partisan political control, capable of gaining and maintaining the respect of the entire community. And I can tell you right now is that they're not impartial, they're not fair, they are not capable of gaining and maintaining the respect of the entire community, and they're certainly, most certainly, not free from partisan political control. Because what we see now is that there's been a complete turnaround in the situation. And let's just say this, Bobby Storey got a British state funeral when the Queen's husband didn't even have one. And that's just as simple as that. So closing out, I really enjoyed this evening. I think everybody else really enjoyed it. I'm going to encourage people to share the screen, to make sure you give us a like, give us a love, give us a share. That way we'll get to invite you to the channel again in the future. And, you know, leave your messages of support for both Stephen and Lorna in the live chat as we play us out with something that's going to make us all smile. People, thank you from the bottom of my heart and from us here at Restore. Both of you are a breath of fresh air, and it's good really to see passion and know that it's passion. You know, there's no facade here. There's no, I mean, I'm not thinking that we're going to get anything different from what you people are speaking right now. And that's what makes it good. That's what makes it real. That's what makes it, I'm going to say, that's what makes the future look good. So it's down to us, people. It's down to us to ensure that the TUV, Stephen Cooper, Lorna Smith, John Ross and co are elected. Thank God that the TUV are available in our greatest hour of need. Thanks very much, people, for coming along. I hope you will come along and join us again real soon. And hopefully, as I say, we can bring some more people. And look, I'll be happy to see you next week at the Carson statue at 1:30 p.m. on Good Friday. And I'll talk to you. I'll send you some messages in the background, because I was going to ask both of you a question, but we'll not do it on here. Let's not spoil what it is that I want to ask. So thanks very much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Playing us out with something that's going to put a smile on everybody's face. And good night, people. As promised, well, I'm here. I didn't get here on Wednesday night, but I'm here on Friday just to make amends for, anyway, what I didn't do during the week. Thank you, people. Thank you. And thanks to the live chat.
join Europe to be swallowed up in some bureaucratic conglomerate, that it's Euro this and Euro that, and forget about being British. We're British, and we're proud of it. Proud of our traditions, proud of our national character.